feels like something you used to have, but lost somewhere along the way. You wake up each day carrying a weight you can't explain. You function, you work, you smile when needed, but inside, your mind never stops moving. Thoughts argue back and forth. Emotions rise without warning. And no matter how busy you stay, the emptiness always finds a way back. Over time, you start to believe this is normal. You tell yourself that peace is for monks, spiritual people, or those lucky enough to escape real life. You accept stress, anxiety, and inner noise as the price of being an adult. The idea of true peace starts to feel unrealistic, almost childish. But that belief is one of the biggest lies you've ever accepted. Peace is not perfection. It's not a life without problems or pain. It's not pretending everything is fine when it isn't. Real peace is something deeper, quieter, and far more powerful than comfort. Most people don't realize that the battle they're fighting isn't with life itself. It's with the way they interpret life. The mind doesn't just observe reality, it filters it. And those filters are shaped long before you had a choice. If you feel exhausted, emotionally tense, or disconnected from yourself, it doesn't mean you're broken. It means you've been living on autopilot. And the good news is, autopilot can be turned off. The reason two people can live the same experience and walk away with completely different outcomes has nothing to do with strength or luck. It has everything to do with interpretation. One person suffers deeply while the other moves forward without carrying the weight. The event didn't decide that. The mind did. Your mind is not neutral. It has been trained over years of repetition, belief, fear, and emotional memory. Many of the reactions you think are just how you are were learned early in life. You absorb them from your environment, from your relationships, from the moments that hurt and were never fully processed. When emotions hit you suddenly, anger, sadness, fear, it's often not the present moment reacting. It's the past speaking through the present. That wounded version of you never left. It simply learned how to hide behind adult responsibilities. Most people never stop to question this. They react automatically, repeating the same emotional patterns, making the same mistakes, reliving the same inner conflicts. They believe life is happening to them instead of realizing their response is shaping the experience. True freedom doesn't come from controlling events. It comes from controlling interpretation. That's where peace begins. Peace is not about pushing emotions away or fighting negative thoughts. That only creates more tension. Resistance strengthens what you're trying to escape. The harder you fight your emotions, the louder they become. The shift happens when you stop identifying with every thought. You are not the voice in your head. You are the one listening. Thoughts pass. Emotions rise and fall. Awareness remains. Imagine your mind as a river. You can't stop the current. Trying only exhausts you. But when you realize you are not the water, you are the observer on the shore, everything changes. The chaos loses its grip. Presence is the practice that brings this awareness back. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, right now. The mind wants to pull you into regret or fear, but peace exists only in the present moment. This is where life actually happens. Distraction is one of the greatest enemies of peace. Not just external noise, but internal avoidance. Many people cannot sit with themselves in silence because silence reveals truth. It exposes fears, unresolved pain, and questions they've been avoiding for years. That discomfort isn't the problem. Running from it is. Silence isn't dangerous. It's very honest. And the only way through discomfort is through it, not around it. Detachment is another key most people misunderstand. Letting go doesn't mean not caring. It means releasing the need to control outcomes, people, and expectations. Much of suffering comes from demanding reality be different than it is. Life does not adjust itself to your desires. Fighting that truth creates frustration, resentment, and emotional exhaustion. Acceptance doesn't weaken you, it frees you. When you focus only on what you can control, your response, your perception, your inner state, peace becomes stable. Everything else becomes background noise. Pain is unavoidable. Suffering is not. The difference lies in how pain is used. Some people let it define them, others let it shape them. Growth often comes with pressure. Strength is built in resistance. Every painful experience carries the option to become fuel or a prison. The choice is rarely easy, but it's always available. One of the hardest attachments to release is identity. The story you tell yourself about who you are can become a cage. When you cling to old labels, wounds, and roles, you replay the same emotional cycles. True inner peace requires the courage to let old versions of yourself die. Not physically, mentally. It means stepping into uncertainty without clinging to the past for safety. Control is another illusion that keeps people trapped. The more you try to control life, the more anxious you become. Life does not follow scripts. It moves, shifts, surprises. Peace comes from trusting your ability to adapt, not from demanding certainty. Your internal dialogue shapes everything. If your mind constantly attacks you, peace will always feel out of reach. Thoughts are not facts. They are habits, and habits can be changed. When you stop treating every negative thought as truth, the inner war begins to end. Peace is built daily, choice by choice, thought by thought. No one hands it to you. No one saves you. It's created through awareness, responsibility, and courage. Peace is not something you wait for. It's something you practice. It grows each time you choose awareness over reaction, acceptance over resistance, and presence over distraction. You don't need a perfect life to feel calm. You need clarity. You need honesty with yourself. You need the courage to stop running. The world will always be noisy. Problems will always exist. But your inner state doesn't have to mirror the chaos around you. True peace shows itself in storms, not comfort. It's revealed when things fall apart and you remain steady. You've always had access to it. Nothing outside of you was ever missing. Something inside was just blocked. The choice is simple, but not easy. You can keep reacting, or you can start observing. And that single shift changes everything. While I never put it into words like this when I was younger, I felt these words. And again, I'll always say I was taught these words by my parents in so many different ways. You know, right now, I can see the beautiful painting that these lessons have taught me. But when I was being taught by the conversations, the statements, the observances, not just how they told me to live, but through different means, because everyone learns different. And this was taught to me by someone that I worked with in corrections. It's a friend of mine who told me, Lance, when you communicate with one who they will call an inmate, although I hate to use that word, one person may say, hey, I'm not hearing you. Another person might say, I just can't see this. Another person might say, I'm not feeling what you're trying to tell me. Feeling, hearing, they're telling you how they learn. Seeing. Some people, you have to actually show them through example. Some people, you have to break it down in smaller parts so they can digest your words to hear it properly. And other people need to be roused a bit emotionally, where it unlocks certain blockages where the message can get in. Your job is that you have to figure out how this person communicates in the most effective way to get the message to them. That was very valuable for me, because many people would say, Lance, you just have a way with words. You just have a way to communicate. Maybe so. But it's knowing how to deliver the message that's acceptable to how a person absorbs it. I'll bring this back to a dietary example. When I was doing bodybuilding, a guy who was more advanced into it than I was when I was a teenager told me, it's not how much you eat, It's what you absorb. He said, think about it. You can put all of the best food inside of you. The best ingredients, protein, carbohydrates, essential fats, water, vitamins, minerals, and trace minerals. You can put all of these good things inside of you. But if your stomach doesn't absorb it, you're only wasting your time. You're only creating expensive waste. There's more to eating than just throwing it down your throat. You have to know how each component of your food reacts to each other. Certain foods you don't throw down with other foods because they will go against each other and not get digested properly. And so I bring this back out to what we were saying about communication and absorbing. If you're in a chaotic atmosphere and you have your inner peace within yourself, and you're trying to convey a message to someone who belongs to that environment and who is affected by that environment, to get your message across effectively, to have them digest and absorb what you have to say effectively, you're going to have to remove them from that environment. This is why, and I'm going to mention law enforcement, I myself had very negative experiences with law enforcement, but then again, I still became part of law enforcement for a time in my life. And I knew by the experiences that I had what not to do. That the more effective you can communicate and deliver the message by figuring out how that person receives it, left me in all my years doing it with no negative situations or blow-ups. So this is a skill that you're going to have. It'll make it so much easier to navigate through life. But you're going to have to seriously understand where people are. And if you are in a certain state of mind, a peaceful state of mind, you have to understand that they may not be. And to effectively communicate to them, they're going to have to be removed from the environment that keeps them in that state of mind. This is why when you speak important things with your significant other, you may want to not do it at home. You may want to go to a restaurant and sit down and have an enjoyable meal. Let's discuss this over dinner. Now you're being fulfilled as far as your appetite. If it's a nice restaurant, a peaceful atmosphere, that person, your spouse, your friend, your business partner, is more apt to absorb what you have to say. So this in turn, from what I've learned, it makes it more peaceful for you to know how to apply this wisdom to a person who may not know of it. So this is why when I woke up this morning, those words came to me and I had to put it down. But I've lived this for many years. A friend of mine told me years ago, he said, Lance, when I see you upset, when I see you emotional and upset and in a rage, I know that you've exhausted every possible means of a peaceful dialogue with the entity or the entities around you that caused you to be this way. And that was when I was much younger. There were times that I didn't absorb these lessons. Of course, you're younger. But the more time goes on, the more I understand that to utilize a smooth emotional transition It's just like a transmission in a vehicle. When you drive a vehicle that's an automatic or has an automatic transmission, when the transmission fluid is at a proper level, as it shifts from one gear automatically to the next, it's a smooth shift that you can barely notice. But when your transmission fluid is low and you shift from first gear to second gear to third gear, it's a bit of a bumpy jolt that you'll feel. That'll let you know that your transmission fluid is low. So when you find yourself being affected by your atmosphere that may be chaotic and you don't feel peaceful because of it, yes, you're going to feel the heat, but that doesn't mean that it will take your peace if you have it. If your symbolic transmission fluid is low of peace, it's going to be a bumpy ride for you. So this is why I always advise not just meditation, but to spend time to yourself, even to pick up a hobby of something that you enjoy. It doesn't have to be what the next person enjoys, but something that takes you away from the atmosphere around you if it's not peaceful. Even if it is peaceful, something that will usher you to take your mind and bring it within yourself. Again, a lot of these situations happen because we've lost touch with ourselves, and that's not selfishness. There was a situation in my life where I was dating a young lady, and we got along well. And I spent a lot of time by her house. She lived with her parents and her family. We were teenagers. But it was a highly dysfunctional situation, always charged with some type of negativity, conflict. While it wasn't something that required the police to come there, it frazzled me in my senses, because at that particular time, I was training, doing bodybuilding and getting ready for competition. So I had to remain centered. So whenever that happened, I didn't blame her. I found a way for us to get out of the house. Or I stated that I had to get something from the store. I just wanted to remove myself from that atmosphere. Even though it was not going to rob my peace, I didn't want to be around it. I didn't want it to even affect 1% of the inner calm that I had within me. My hobby is artwork. I'm artistic on so many different ways and different levels, but I love the detail of the pencil and the pen. I don't use pencil like others do when I do these detailed illustrations. I only use pencil to outline lightly where I want the ink to go. I draw with ink. I shade with ink. It takes a lot of precise placement and focus to do this without messing up. Because as you know, once you put the ink to the paper, you're not going to erase it. It's going to be one big smear. So my focus is trained even deeper. So from young, 3.5, 4 years old, 5 years old, I used to love to have a pen and a pencil in my hand and execute on paper what was in my brain. And that brought me into a level of focus that I can use in any other thing that I do. Because when you develop these skills of focus based on top of, layered on top of your inner peace, time moves different for you. 2 minutes can feel like 2 hours. And I'm exaggerating to prove a point. But if you're not at peace with yourself, the passage of time moves different for you. And many people don't realize this. When you're still from the inside, when you're calm and peaceful, and you have your own inner act together while observing the world around you, the world around you can become, I hate to say it, but it's true, almost like entertainment. You can see the intentions and the motivations of people around you. You look into their eyes and you can almost download their thoughts. Now, I'm not saying I'm a mind reader, but you don't have to be. All you have to be is at peace within yourself. It makes a big difference. Today, there are things that I'm going to do that will involve the crowds of people. And I can't wait, because right now, I am so peaceful from within. I got up, had that conversation with myself, and I opened myself to realizing how much time I have today, what I hope to experience and enjoy, because it's not mandatory. It's what I desire to do. And then I laid there and waited for these words to come to me. And they did. And I put them down. It's a righteous ritual that I do every day. And don't be afraid when I say ritual. It only means it's my own personal practices of creativity, which keep me balanced. And so once I get my work accomplished, I'm so free during the day to absorb the data that I need for my next creation. And like I said, I learned this from my parents. And it wasn't where they sat me down and said this the way I'm saying it, in a condensed way. Because symbolically, let's say it this way, in a very abstract way, I saw my father and mother bring home the canvas. I saw my father and my mother bring home various small bottles of paint, of which they would use to paint the canvas. And then I saw them bring different sizes of brushes. I didn't know about a picture, but they were getting all of the necessary ingredients, materials to paint a picture. It didn't come alive until they began to paint the picture, and I realized what it was that they were trying to convey to me. So that being said, your lessons are not all going to hit you at one time. When it's something that you need to learn, take your time and absorb it and enjoy each bite of the lesson. Digest each bite of the lesson. When you're very hungry and you sit down to consume a plate of food, now you're hungry. You're happy that you have the sufficient amount of food in front of you, but are you completely fulfilled after one bite? No. You have to take time and Ingest each bite, chew it thoroughly so you can absorb it properly. The lesson doesn't come to you at first completely, like that plate of food. It's only after you finish that plate, or if the plate defeats you and you can't finish it, that you push yourself away from the table and enjoy a few moments of digestive bliss. And you let the food and nutrition course through you. That's the same way it is in life. You begin to figure things out. Just think, okay, you're in a certain level of awareness now, but hopefully when tomorrow comes, you'll be at a more heightened level of awareness. So where you find yourself today, tomorrow you'll be better off. But that in itself, you have to understand that. You have to understand that you may not understand some of the things that are happening around you and in your personal life. So you have to step back if you don't understand it, and don't jump to conclusions if you don't understand it. You don't fill in the blanks with something you don't know. It's like when I was a child, maybe 5 years old, about 5 years old, I'd say. My mother and I were on a subway train going somewhere. She never drove, my father did. And so there was a man who walked on to the subway car from the other one, and he had cerebral palsy. And of course, it's a condition that makes you walk a little different than someone who's completely well. And of course, it makes you talk a little different. And I'm not going to emulate how he talked. If you know, you know. But in my ignorance, I've never seen a person who had cerebral palsy before at 5 years old. Other kids, which there weren't many, on the train with their folks, with their family, they began to laugh at the man who came walking through, basically asking for donations for an organization of cerebral palsy. They laughed. Now, I looked to my mother, and I knew that I had to step back. Not physically, we were sitting down, but I had to step back and absorb. And I looked to her for some type of word, because I had never encountered seeing a person with cerebral palsy. And so she said to me softly, "It's not proper to laugh at a person with a medical condition." And I knew that, although at first I fought the urge to giggle, because for all I knew, maybe this man was trying to make people laugh. But when I saw how everyone else, as far as the children, laughed so hard, I thought to myself, let me check with my mother before I react. So she gave me an explanation, and after we got off the train, she told me what that was all about. So I know when I see something different, I take time to process it. And just from being in the presence of my parents anyway, I knew not to laugh initially. And it was something. The man that got on, he must have been used to that type of reaction, because he did not flinch. He didn't react to the children. He didn't get angry. He ignored it because he understood that some people may be ignorant to the fact of his condition. And so oftentimes, on another level, we have to be the same way, like that man who I saw when I was 5 years old on the train that had cerebral palsy. And what is that? We have to understand that there are people who are ignorant to what you may be going through or who you are as a person. It's like walking through a neighborhood of a different race predominantly. And people who look like you, whatever you look like, whatever race you may be, are not common in that area. So you will get glances and stares and double takes because they're not used to somebody who looks like you. And this is how it is when there's difference. And that's another way that you have to watch over your inner peace, because out of ignorance, people will say things, people will do things, and you have to understand that they're ignorant. See, living in America teaches you that very well when you look like me. Either you lash out every time it's somebody else's ignorance, or you just simply understand. Now, they can't put their hands on you. They can't do certain things to you. But in passing, you can't blow up on something that is in abundance in America. And I use America as an example because that has been my experience. So you're going to use their ignorance to either make you wiser, make you stronger, or you're going to react to something that's just going to keep on coming. The choice is yours. You either let it tear you down, have you full of anxiety, or you rise above it with strength. It will make you stronger. It won't even bother you after a while. That would be their problem, their issue. See, there's so much at play in this world that we have to deal with, consciously or subconsciously. And we have to walk with an inner peace that is over and above. Because now, with social media and the accelerated emotions and mindsets of people that are triggered because of their own insecurities that they didn't work on, their own voids that they want to inflict on you. They didn't get enough love when they were younger. Situations are different. They didn't get enough hugs when they were younger. So now they're going to try to manipulate you to give them the attention that they never had, which can be draining. You see, so you have so many people that are looking for the answer to their peace on the outside. But like the title of this particular dialogue says, peace isn't outside of you. How to stop living at war with yourself. And there's so many people living at war with themselves and they don't even realize it. If a person is close to you and wise enough to know that they need some type of outside help, and they discuss this with you, you can point these things out if they're intelligent enough to process this. But if they're always trying to inflict their voids on you, oftentimes in an intellectual way, to turn any situation around where it's you that's the problem, and they're resistant to any advice, then in that situation, if they're not in your inner circle, you better turn around and run for the hills. Because if you open yourself up to that type of energy of a person who doesn't want to see their faults or their inner voids, then that would drain you down and destroy your peace. Protect your peace at all times. If you find yourself being frazzled after a conversation with certain particular energies on the phone or in person or a place that's always chaotic, avoid it. Leave it alone. It's not your duty to save the world. You can help out as long as it doesn't destroy your peace. And many people will say, oh, that's selfish. No. And when you think this way, you probably won't get along too well if you have close proximity to an enabler. People who enable other people in their shortcomings. And they're so busy trying to make up the difference because of what this one lacks and what that one lacks. And we have these perpetual enablers who, no matter where they go, they become the mama bear or the papa bear, meaning that they're there and they start asking everybody, are you okay? Okay, well, you need this, I have this, and you enable. And then when they have people around them who are dysfunctional, they will make excuses for that person. So they're out of their peace because they're scrambling for acceptance in the chaotic world around them by patching up every shortcoming of things that individuals have to work on themselves. If you're not willing to see what someone points out that you need to work on, if you refuse to see it, that person needs to pull away and let you learn your lesson on your own, if you learn your lesson. So tell me, on the wrap up, do you think about situations that pull on your peace, or do you let other energies take it away from you? You have to be aware. You have to see it almost like a gas gauge on the dashboard of your vehicle. Do you ignore the gas gauge when it says that it's slightly above E, empty, and continue driving, or begin to do a drive to a different state? That gas gauge is always there. You can choose to look at it, or you can choose to look away. But it points to a reality that will not be pleasant when you find yourself on the interstate, 1 o'clock in the morning with no gas station in sight, and you run out of gas. So when you evaluate situations, you have to look within yourself and say, is this person taking away my peace? And find ways to not let that happen again, or remove yourself. And I have no problem, trust me, if I see that you're a bundle of confusion, you won't have to worry about finding me in your path. I am gone. I don't do that anymore. I used to try to work along with people who seem as though they just don't want to improve themselves. And it doesn't mean that I'm a perfect person, but if I have what it is that you need, I have no problem giving it to you, as long as you know that you need it. I'm not doing it for any reason, any hidden agenda, just from the kindness of my heart, which I'm still that way. But I'm not going to let you, if you're drowning and I reach my hand to pull you up out of the water, I'm not going to let you pull me into the pool and make me drown because you're yanking on me to get out of the pool. No, I can't partake in your madness. I have to maintain my peace. That's mandatory. That's not going to change. And we have so many broken people out here who are looking for external or to externally medicate themselves. The things they indulge themselves in. And you can tell. It's not being judgmental. It's just an assessment. Hey, we have to do our own inner assessment. If you find yourself indulging in things that are destructive to your peace, you better have that talk with yourself and be real about it. Because when you're trying to distract yourself, whether it's alcohol, drugs, not managing anger, you better figure out why you're angry. Your indulgence in porn, but you can't have a regular relationship. A lot of things that we are addicted to but don't admit that we're addicted to are the very things that are going to choke us off from enjoying a full life while we're still hungry, because these things don't fulfill us. They distract us. But you can see it in other people. And again, it's not judging, it's an assessment. When you take your vehicle to the mechanic, you may not know the inner workings of what goes on under that hood or in the mechanism of that vehicle, but you trust that they know it. And so when you get the rundown of the bulleted points of what is wrong with your vehicle, maybe you didn't maintain it properly for a very long time. You were busy and you had neglected it. And now you don't want to see all of these things, all of these items that have to be corrected because it's going to cost you money. You don't tell the mechanic, why are you judging my vehicle? No. Judging is when you don't know. You judge, but you don't know. Judge the distance from where you stand to that wall over there. It might be 11 and a half feet. It might be 12 feet. It might be 13 and a half feet. So you judge. You give an approximation. But when you know and you give an assessment, it's because now you have the tape measure to roll out and say, hey, it's 12 and a quarter feet exactly. So that's not judging. When you see someone who's indulging themselves in different things to self-medicate themselves, you know it's not what they do to self-medicate, because different things can be interchangeable depending on the person. But that's an indication of something going on the inside. I know someone who has extreme mental health issues. And it's been like this for years, most of her life. She's been through a lot of trauma. If you speak to her, she's in a crowd, or she could be in front of you in the checkout line at a supermarket, and you ask her for the time, and she tells you, and then maybe a conversation is struck up, you strike up a conversation. And this person would sound so intelligent. The pronunciation of their words, the diction, the subject matter, the charisma in the conversation. Like, wow, this is a really, really intelligent person. And then they'll say a sentence that makes no sense with what you've been saying, something wacky. And I've seen this expression on the faces of people who didn't know when I was around this young lady who's from the neighborhood. So lots of times, many of us would bump into her at the supermarket or coming from the subway station, and we'd walk down with her, and we knew. Sometimes it wouldn't happen. And one time I was walking with her, and you're tentative in the conversations that you have because you know she's not all the way there. Conversation was going well and quite intelligent. And then she busted off and said, I'm tired of walking. I can fly, right? I'm going to start flying home. I'm going to start flying around. I don't need a car. I don't need the train. I'm going to start flying from now on. What do you think about that, Lance? And did I lose my peace when trying to convince her, listen, you have mental health issues and that can't happen? I said, well, if that's something that you feel is necessary, then go ahead and do it. But I'm enjoying the fact that you're walking with me. I just hope later on, when I was thinking, I said, I hope she doesn't jump off of a building thinking she can fly. which is not funny, but you just don't know. But anyway, I'm all over the place, and I just wanted to convey that message. Think of your peace by the way you feel as a gas gauge on the dashboard of a vehicle, and really be honest with yourself. Is my peaceful meter full? Is my tank full? Do I need to cultivate more? Do I need to meditate more? Do I need to go and indulge in my hobby more? Sometimes you need to just sit still in nature. Sometimes you need to sit in your living room or even in your bedroom. I would suggest the living room. The bedroom should be for sleeping, unless the moments that you're waking up. But take time with yourself. Today, my tank is full, as it is most time. My tank of peace. If you're dealing with a situation, understand that if it's a family matter, people that you care for, you may feel a little drained. Identify what it is. Is it a physical draining because you didn't eat enough, rest enough, because you're dealing with this? Then you need to take care of yourself. You can't let your emotions make you not take care of yourself and neglect your physical being, because if your physical being is drained, it's easy for your spirit to be drained and your mind to be drained, right? And then you always have to find yourself away from that situation, because oftentimes to stay in it, if you live in it, you got to take that walk, you got to get out. Oftentimes you have to bend the truth a little bit. Well, I'm going to go outside for a little while and get some air. Meanwhile, you end up cross town, somewhere peaceful, in a restaurant, enjoying yourself with your favorite food, right? Do whatever it is for you to maintain your peace, because the world looks different. When you're peaceful, it's a good thing, and observing, as opposed to fighting the voids that are in you that may make you absorb things that you're not supposed to absorb. Don't settle for any energy when you have those voids in you. Fill yourself up with your own bit of inner peace, because peace isn't outside of you, it's inside. I can't say that enough. Anyway, I'm going to run now. If you made it this far, thank you for being here. You know I love to share my thoughts and perspectives. I don't think I know everything, but what little I know, I'm willing to share. And I enjoy you being here with me. And I thank you so much. I appreciate you so much. And again, like I said, I don't have to have 10 million followers. I'm not going for that. It's the people who are real, who come around, and just the beautiful, comments and stuff in the chat that we share as we grow and seek to go to a higher level. And like I always say, to seek to be better today than we were yesterday, and to learn something today that'll make us better tomorrow. I love you all. Thank you so much for being here. LANCESCURV out. Peace.